have Pastor Mark Burns joining us to take a deeper look at what is happening in the U.S. He's a co-founder and CEO of the Now Christian Television Network and a beloved evangelical leader. So, Pastor, first of all, what is your take on these protests? What does your community have to say?
Well, first of all, let me just outright say it openly. I condemn the violence that is taking place, the anarchy that is taking place by some of these organized groups that have hijacked the reason why so many Americans, especially African Americans, are protesting peacefully around this country. I mean, we have to make a loud declaration that we refuse to allow our skin color to be weaponized and to be a threat to police brutality that we see taking place, around this country. But we have to turn this protest into policy. And that's been my message to the White House. That's been my message to the other African American leaders who we've together created this coalition of leadership that we'll be meeting very shortly with the U.S. Conference of Mayors so that we can begin to have that real dialogue.
So, Pastor, I'd like to get to what you think the government needs to do right now, to deal with the issue of racism in America. But many have criticized the U.S. government's handling of these protests, including President Trump hiding in the White House bunker, the consistent attack on left-wing groups like Antifa as the perpetrators of the protest violence that you spoke about, and, of course, the decision to call in the National Guard. What is your response?
Well, I really think history teaches us and that we should really learn from history. When we watch and saw what took place with George W. Bush, when Katrina hit in some of the most, minority, low-income families in Louisiana, and how so many people died, and how the president could have, how he was criticized heavily by really not coming to ground zero right when that happened to bring inspiration and leadership. And listen, the world cannot deny my support for President Donald Trump. I was there back in 2015. I was there when he was a laughing stock. He was not even people counting him out, but yet I was there back then, and I'm still there today. So I want you to understand, I'm still 100% behind the president and his policies. But I disagree with the president. I really wish the president would show up at these rallies. I mean, he should be locking arms in arms, protesting with the protesters, saying, I'm standing with you, I'm standing behind you. And we should force those Democrats in Minneapolis to charge all 4 of those police officers, not just one, but all 4 of these police officers for murder.
Now, you say that you're a longtime supporter of Trump. We know that Trump has also come under fire for making divisive comments on social media that some believe are pushing forward, white supremacism and facilitating racism across the United States. Many say that this narrative has existed since the beginning of his presidency, and that it's actually contributed to what we're seeing today, the violence that we're seeing today against people of color. What is your response to that?
Well, let me just say this. I don't think President Trump is adding to the racism in this nation, but let me just be clear. The racism in this nation didn't start with President Donald Trump. Let's not be coy. Racism has existed in this nation way before President Donald Trump, way before Black Lives Matter, way before the deaths that are taking place in this country. So let's quit acting like we just showing up to the party and just now realizing all of a sudden black people are being, are oppressed. The reality of it is, Will Smith said it best. The actor Will Smith said it best. Racism in America isn't getting worse. It's just getting filmed. People are just not able to watch and see what's taking place. The cries from the wilderness that we've been having from day one. So I hate it when I hear people begin to charge President Donald Trump with racism. Let's go back to Eisenhower. Let's go back to Nixon. Let's go back to, so many presidents prior to. Even Abraham Lincoln, the beloved Abraham Lincoln, said, if I can return the Union back together and keep the slaves in their chains, I'll do so. So let's quit acting like racism just started up. No, Donald Trump is not a racist. Donald Trump is not fueling fire. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America doing his job to make sure that there's law and order and control. Now, the president is not bringing law and order and control to those that are protesting peacefully. He's bringing law and order and control to those anarchists who have infiltrated those peaceful protesters and removing the memory of George Floyd and why we are protesting in the first place.
Pastor, what do you believe needs to change in the United States in the system to help support people of color? And what is the message that you want to send to protesters, both black and white, who are out there on the streets today?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think this nation, especially at the highest level of government, needs to look like America. Okay, it needs to look like America. I think in every area of government, there needs to be more people of color, not just black people, but we're talking about Asians. We're talking about Hispanics. Every sector of government needs to have people who look like them and come from our diverse communities in our country. I think that's a problem. When you don't have people who have been in the struggle, who's been at the back of the bus, so to speak, who've had the struggle like I've had with nothing and come up to where I've come from today, not because people gave me nothing, but because of sheer hard work. Number two, my message to the protesters: keep protesting, but you've got to distance yourself immediately from those anarchists who are hijacking your protests. They're hijacking the memory and the purpose as to why there needs to be protests. They got to learn from Dr. King and the civil rights movements in the 1960s of why the protest eventually transformed into policy, which brought real change. The pain turned into protest, and the protest turned into policy. And now America is better for it. But as long as the protesters are allowing those anarchies and allowing those to infiltrate these groups and start, fighting the police just to cause violence, that's not what we need in this country. George Floyd died. The others have died. Countless of blacks have died at the hands of police. But we don't want to tie the hands of the police either. I believe in law and order. I believe that we need the police. We need law and order. We need them to do their jobs. But we also need to implement policies to remove those bad apples, like the individual that had his knee on George Floyd's neck that caused him to die, according to the latest autopsy that proved he died to a fixation due to pressure on his neck and his back. Cops like that need to have their power removed and thrown in jail immediately.
And Pastor, I just want to ask you how it makes you feel to see so many people taking to the streets right now. This is something that it seems like it's bigger than ever before. I mean, at least in the past couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this is a cry for help. This is a cry for help. I mean, there are countless of stories, and I want to be clear, it's not just within the African-American community, because there are poor white families who struggle, there are poor white families who've also been killed at the hand of police brutality. There are countless of videos that are out there that exist. So it's not a racist issue. We need to quit making this an issue about black people, even though it is true that black people, according to Harvard, are 2 times likely to be killed by the police. The number one cause of death for young black men is the police, so we understand that. But the reality of it is, it's not just black people or people of color. You got poor white people. You got poor white families in the Appalachians, in areas that they don't have high-powered attorney. They don't understand what white privilege is, because they were poor from the day one that they were born, and they too have been dealt with injustice by the hands of the police.
All right, Pastor. Well, thank you so much for joining us. So informative. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but you're right. This is an issue that we all need to be taking on the world as one family. Thank you, Pastor, for joining us.
Absolutely. God bless you.